Hi guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be going through the Geelong versus North Melbourne game, going through how Geelong just tore them up, to be honest with you. 139 to 75 point margin. Jeremy Cameron, it was a weird one because if you actually look at the fancy output, North had a plus 250 points on Geelong. But in the end, Geelong beat them by 75 points. So if you take out the point scoring from the actual goals, they beat them by 350 on the fantasy output just by having another 40-odd kicks, another 40-odd marks, another 17 tackles, and beat them on hit-outs and beat them on the free kicks as well. Beat them on pretty much every fantasy metric you could have. But in the end, Geelong got the job done very convincingly. It was over at halftime, basically. And so, yeah. Before we grab into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this recap. So, Jeremy Cameron, the only 100 scorer for Geelong, and he had 79 in the first half. He is one that when he kicks goals regularly, he is fun to watch, and he's potentially one that you could look at to potentially grab later down the line post the buys. I don't know exactly what Geelong's run is, but he could be an interesting one to look at if they do have a lean run of maybe a North or a West Coast, etc. Let me just go to Cameron. Here we go. And then you've got here, yeah, you could maybe look at targeting him for this 5-game stretch here where he plays North, Adelaide, Fremantle, St Kilda and West Coast, I think, or even you could target him the week before against the Western Bulldogs. That's a really kind run, I'm pretty sure. But we'll wait and see how those teams are looked at in almost 15 weeks time, so almost 4 months time now, 3 months time. So we'll see how they're sort of going at that time. Holmes, a 99. He's sort of just been there or thereabouts. Obviously beaten out by Martin pretty convincingly, I'd say, by... Martin's probably up by, what's Martin averaging, like 108 or so. So he's probably been beaten by Martin by 15 or so points on average. So Martin was obviously the better pick. But Martin, I think, started out, I want to say, 10 points up. So he's about 5 points worse off than Martin if you were looking at the average boost. And probably not going to be a top 6 defender. So, and also had to kick a goal to get to, Martin also did kick a goal. So, yeah, 99 from him, pretty good, but I don't think he's really going to be fancy relevant. O'Connor, a 96, I think he's put out, or was it just, he got a lot of, was it a 40 off like the heap of tackles or something? I remember just thinking that he had a good game a couple of weeks ago. Let me actually just check, because watch me be completely wrong with that. Watch me be completely wrong. Where is it? Oh, he put out a 76 on 8 tackles. Yeah, that's what I think it was. Yeah, he's one of those guys that can put out a 80 score with about 10 touches because he gets so many tackles. Myers literally tore them up in the first quarter. You'll see here, he was on 27 after about 10 minutes. You can see here, the 11 minute and 31 second mark, he was on 27 points. He was just getting the ball and just driving it inside 50. I think they were up 26 to 6 at that point or something. Then we have Close here. He just did an all-round, well, he was actually very quiet, to be honest with you. And then in the last quarter, he just went goal, and he ended up with 4 goals in the end, somehow. 2 of them in the last. Bose, I think, had a decent game, but he's sort of, you know, the unfortunate thing about Bose is the timing of this. He just seems to have done it when you don't really need to, and you know what he's going to be next year? He's going to be averaging about 75, 80. And you're going to be like, well, it's Bose. He's not going to go 100, so he's not going to be fancy relevant. So I don't think he'll ever be fancy relevant from here on out unless something major happens that he dips in value or he gets the perfect positioning, because I just don't think in the role that he can go much more than like a 90, and there's no real fancy value there. Neil, 80, Stewart, an 80. We got blessed with Stewart going 80. He just seems, with Holmes down back, he just seems to have lost about 10 points, I would say. Even though he's going on basically his average of what he was doing last year, but you have to remember he had an injured 4 in there from last year, so 98 I think was his average, so he's going about -4, -5 on what he was when Holmes was not back there. Parfitt, 75. Dempsey, this was the biggest redemption to a 70 you will ever see, and he had, if this tackle against Jerry didn't supply, that would have been an 11 points. He probably would have ended up with an 81 there as well, and he missed some gettable kicks as well. So, yeah, the thing about Dempsey is, and he missed some marks as well. So the thing about him, he scored a 70. But it feels like every week he can almost score like a 90, 95. So I think he's fine at the moment. He's gaining cash. What's he priced at the moment? He's priced at 534. He's projected still to make another 51K. So he's projected to still make another 51. So almost get to 600K. That would almost be 180K plus scores from him this year. So for me, so that's not too bad. I'm hoping he goes a little bit more and gets sort of another 90 or 100 score to boost that cash gen, because if we can boost that cash gen and get him up towards that 650, then you start to think about it. But he is still averaging across the year 77.8, which isn't the worst for a forward. I think it's roughly top 18 or so. So that's not the worst, and will probably be one of the last upgrade slots given the forwards are so weak. And yeah, there'll probably be maybe one midfielder left by that point. Given that you got to think about it effectively, what's the gap to a top 6 forward is probably going to be maybe a plus 18 or so from him to say a 95 scorer for a forward. Whereas a gap from say a Roberts potentially, or not McKercher anymore, but potentially say a mid, that last rookie spot on the midline, they might be scoring 80, but the gap to a top 6 or top 8 or top 10 midfielder is potentially 25, 30 points. So it's more valuable to actually get that top midfielder than it is to get that last forward off the ranks. So that is sort of my thinking of why Dempsey may just slot in my side for a while and just slowly filter down the forward ranks as we get you're going to have Heaney, Flanders, Zorko, Sanders might be down there. You got Tom Powell as well. Zach Fisher's doing all right. So you sort of have those sort of 5 guys there that are going along all right. Duncan didn't do anything. Stengel, Atkins. Duncan's role seems to be destroyed by Holmes being down there. So just watch that. Stengel, Atkins, Stanley, Blickars, Bruin. Bruin with a 52. I think next year he could be one that's really, really good value. He seems to be growing into the game, and this is the one thing that I'll say about him. I know I won't pick him in the end, but he's one that I'm going to heavily flag next year. And I won't pick him in the end because he's going to be natural upside rather than a historical downside that we're going to get with a McRae, a Vazza Smith and stuff like that. We're going to get other types of value which are a lot easier to predict than Bruin. Case in point, look at what happened to Newcomb this year. But he's one that we're going to heavily flag because his role, he's getting the right role and he's starting to pump out those big scores, and he's got the tackling down pat that if he can do a Jack Steele and get those 2, 3, 4 marks a game, that is going to heavily impact him. And I think he can start to just rack up the disposals, especially if a better ruckman comes on. Tui, Henry, O'Sullivan, decent game, not really fancy relevant. Guthrie, Henry, DeConing, and then Clark came on, cashed and ruined by. Then we go over to North. Harry Sheasel. Look at this last quarter. Wait, if it loads. 52 in the last. A 28 is his low, and he had a 52, a 42, and a 37 outside of that. That is just a crazy return. Yep, I am so glad he is currently going. His role is so perfect. He's basically just setting himself up. He's taking kickouts. He's also just setting himself up in the corridor and just saying, kick it to me and I will find someone free. And he's just going to get points. Scott, a 115. Powell, a 113. This is why Powell is going to be a top 6 forward. No matter, he's... let me actually just show you why he is on the stat center here. I know I'm running over. We're currently at 9 minutes, but I'm sure you will see what I mean here. If we go to average here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's currently the 5th best, but you've got Blake Drury in there. Blake Drury's not going to do that. Expect him to drop a 40 because you know what happened last year. So he's currently 4th effectively. And yeah, I still need to get Flanders and Zorko over the next little bit, but that'll come. So you've got probably going to be Heaney, Zorko, Flanders, Powell, the top 4, and then you're going to have the likes of if we just scroll down here, I do like potentially a Liam Baker, but he did only score a 92. Bolton scored a 105, so it'll be interesting. One of those dudes probably going to filter in, and then you've also got the likes of a Brad Hill, but he did pop a 41 against Geelong, so you probably want to see another week of him scoring well and that role really off the back line showing. And yeah, you can just see all these sort of mid-forward type guys. Taylor Adams may get into the mix as well, but that'll be a post-buy thing. He may just sneak in that top 6 type of 85-90 type of player. As you see here, a lot of guys in this sort of 80 to 90 range, and a lot of them will start to even out with mid to low 80s, as they have a lot of them have peak games in them that a trough game will sort of, I guess, or a low will filter that out. But yeah, Tom Powell, I'm really happy to have. Sherry went huge in the last quarter again, a 38 and a 33 in the second. He keeps on producing for those that have him. I'm happy that I've got the Marshall and Gawn, who I honestly believe will be the top 2 rucks now. I don't think English with Darcy being there will be up there, and I think Sherry will burn roughly 20 points per game on Marshall, to be honest with you, as I think he was lucky to get to the 107. But for those that have him, he's been absolutely immense for you. I'm just happy I went with the Marshall, because Marshall in the second half of games are ridiculous. David Juniak, wait one more week, I think. Wait one more week, and then wait one more week, grab Dacos, and wait another week and grab him. Wait for the L3 of 100 to pop up, and then go. Drury, he's a small forward. He's going to have, look at this. He was still getting marks and disposals here. But yeah, a huge amount of marks here to get there. I don't know if his form is replicable, so I don't think I will go there. Eddie Ford, 97, McDonald, Tucker, an 86, Biggie, I will just call him that to not stuff his name up. He looked really good. One that I'm looking at in Supercoach, given that he's only played the 1 game now, and will be on the price bubble in a week's time, and that'll be in probably my last boost will be next week. For that, Fisher, 82, he did really well in the third to get a 29, and then a 21 in the last to a 50-point second half, so shows that he can score for those people wondering. And yeah, I'm not too worried about Fisher, to be honest with you. Still has that role for anyone that was wondering if he'd be the forward pocket. Simpkin, 80, no one cares. Combin, for those that jumped on him, he did all right. He slowed down in the last but his intercept game is ridiculous. He is going to be such a good Supercoach scorer, because he's going to have 6 marks a game. And yes, he did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 marks in this game. I don't expect him to continue like that, but I also expect him to be able to lay maybe a couple of tackles. He laid 1 in this game, lay a couple of tackles and some other sort of work, and get himself sort of 80 to 85 Supercoach points a game, which would be about a 60, which is sort of good for everyone. And what a play this was. I will skip over Warlord because he's not ready yet. Not ready to explode. He's a great player, but he's not ready to go that sort of 90, 100 yet. Lazaro, what a call this was. I sort of lent into sort of almost game theory and just went, I think Clarkson will maneuver first and will use the sub first, rather than I saw that Scott was very didn't want to use his sub, almost never. We saw played about 40 seconds in one of the games, etc. He doesn't like to use his sub as much. So I thought Lazaro's probably going to get on earlier, and it just so happened that we had an injury for McKercher, which sucks for cash generation there. But Lazaro came on, and his cash generation started again. So yeah, really happy to own Lazaro. I think he went up about 30k or so. Let me just check here. Might give it away a little bit. Yeah, those were give away my trades a little bit. But yeah, he went up, what's that now? 35k, got his break even down to an 18, which was huge. And yeah, 386k, I'm hoping he can have a spurt there and start going again, because if he can go 70, he can get up to 500k and be the cash generation that I wanted, as I so almost traded him out a couple of weeks ago, and now we're starting to get that cash generation train again, as he looked really good. He almost looked better than Simpkin and Greenwoods and some others, so I don't think he'll be dropped. I think there'll be others that will be dropped before him. Stevens, 57, he's just not there. He's just not, he's left-footed, and that's about it. He is so left-footed that he can't kick on the right, which doesn't help. So yeah, I don't think he was the best pickup for them, to be honest with you. Obviously, a failed pick by the Swans at pick 5, and now I think he'd be valued about pick 40, pick 45 now, Core, Curtis, Greenwood, Larkey, Dersma. Again, this is the reason why you don't pick these half forwards. A 33 from him. Didn't even see him, to be honest with you. Took a couple marks to get that scoring up. But yeah, not really fancy relevant, to be honest with you. But he's done the job for those people, and now you can just trade him out to a Will Graham or something like that. Bank 70k. Get that sort of break even down into the negatives, and yeah. So, and then Sellers and McKercher obviously subbed out, so McKercher is being moved on for most of the comp. So that pretty much is the video there, and I guess I will see you guys in the next one, which will be the last one of the round, which is the West Coast turning up and smoking the depleted Richmond side. So I guess I'll see you guys in that video. Bye, guys.